Hello, Matthew. How you going?
Yeah, good, thanks,
I like
Jen.
that intro. I haven't heard that before. That's cool.
You've got to listen to DCFM or
Yeah,
Wednesday morning.
I'm normally asleep, to be honest.
I feel like.
How you going?
Good, very good.
It's nice to see you. I haven't talked to you for maybe 12 months actually doing this stuff.
Probably a while, yeah. Richard's been very greedy holding on to this session, hasn't he?
It's cool. So we're going to talk about a couple of topics today. I've got some here for you, and the first one is about many of us are looking to upgrade our TVs, but how can we make our old TV feel new again?
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting with TVs at the moment is that we hear talk about 4K TVs, even 8K TVs have just been announced. Unfortunately, most of the broadcasts that are coming out now are only coming out in high definition, so upgrading your TV to get those better pictures is probably not going to make a huge amount of difference, but the thing that will make a difference is in relation to the actual sound quality. And what you find sometimes, you'll walk into someone's home and you'll hear the TV volume very loud, and you'll think, wow, that seems incredibly loud, and why are they having it that loud? And often it's loud because the quality isn't good enough, people aren't hearing the TV, so they think they'll turn it up louder to be able to hear it. So
absolutely.
One thing that people are doing now to really do a TV upgrade without upgrading their TV is to actually upgrade the sound quality. So if you buy one of the new sound bars or buy a stereo with some really good speakers on there, then suddenly you'll feel a whole new experience watching your old TV. So I don't want to say don't go and buy a new TV, but it is a way to look at getting a better experience out of your TV viewing without actually upgrading the TV you've got. Now, when lots of broadcasts go to 4K, and even in Japan, some are starting at 8K now, when that happens, sure, upgrading your actual panel to get those better resolutions is sensible, but at the moment, it's a lot to be said for upgrading the sound on your TV to give you that new experience.
It's such a good observation. You know, I noticed it a lot as well, especially being an audio engineer. I go into my mum's house and the EQ is just so wrong and it's just blaring, but it's still not audible. And you're absolutely right, upgrading the sound system, and some of these sound bars sound fantastic now as well. They've got a lot of bass in them, which was something that I thought they might have lacked.
Yeah, being so small, you think they might lack a bit of bass there. When in the old days, you'd have the big subwoofer that you'd sit underneath the TV, and then the big speakers on the side. Now those sound bars are quite impressive. So again, it's one of those things, and again, from your background, obviously, listening to that very particularly, getting it right and just getting it so that you actually got it all matched to the system as well, that makes sense. But you probably saw the situation with your mum. She might be losing a few of the frequencies in her hearing, so she kept turning it up. Having a son that's an audio engineer to come and fix it up for her, maybe not.
When I'm there twice a year.
That might be very helpful for her.
The other thing, so that's really cool, great point. Let's move on to the next one, which is about the coronavirus. It's all over the TVs at the moment. And it's not, I thought I might have had a bit of coronavirus over the long weekend, but I was just drinking the actual Mexican Coronas. But it's not that at all.
Finally they've got something for people that drink too much Corona, coronavirus.
Yeah. So there is a bit of confusion around that. Can you please tell us what is it and what's happening with it?
Well, it's a standard joke that we have in technology circles that there's an app for that. When someone says, I've got a sore foot, we'll say there's an app for that. And when the coronavirus started, I actually did say as a bit of a joke, there'll be an app for that. And believe it or not, there's an app for that. If you want to look at where the coronavirus is, where the breakouts are, where unfortunately people are infected, or obviously much more unfortunately that people have died, you can actually get an online dashboard now that you can actually see exactly where the breakouts are of the virus. And looking at that, you can actually get update information directly from the World Health Organization, WHO, and so that information is as live as anyone that has. So you don't have to wait till the news or try and find some site that will tell you what's happening. You can actually look at this online dashboard. So yes, for the coronavirus, there is an app for that effectively.
Oh, that's good. Because the other thing I'm noticing is they're really isolating people and keeping them. There's quite a few Australians that are trapped over there that they won't let, and also a lot of motels and hotels are refusing people to stay there because they're worried. And it seems like there is always some sort of virus that we're really concerned about that's going to, take over. But I think the coronavirus, is it true that I think it might, even though it is viral, it seems to dissipate very quickly?
Yeah, look, I'm not an expert on the virus.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Behind
That's what I mean. And it's easy to get caught up in the fear of it a bit if you, without, that's what I'm getting at is, it's quite easy to get really worked up about something when it might not be as bad as it seems.
Yeah, look,
and that's what we could hope for.
The main thing, the great part about the app is you can see if you're going to travel somewhere, you want to go somewhere, you pull out the app and you look to see whether or not there are any infections that are reported in that area. So if you thought, I want to travel overseas, but I'm going to New Zealand, is that safe? You look on the app and say, oh, look, there's no outbreaks there, so it's all okay. So basically it's a way to just check where those incidents are of the virus in terms of the medical side of it. Yeah, look, I've got no expertise there whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's just very interesting, and like it's everywhere at the moment on the TVs.
Yeah,
that's cool that you can get that app. Also, phone addiction is a real thing, and I've noticed that a lot of concerts they're using these bags now, so that when you go into the concert, everyone seals their phone up in this bag, and they go there and they enjoy the event as humans.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? Is that Google's got a new solution for that?
Well, yeah, so that actually solution, Richard and I have spoken about that particular solution you talked about there in terms of some schools are trialling that in South Australia now, so it's actually quite interesting. But this is a little bit different. It's interesting when you've got a company like Google that relies so heavily on us using technology for them to make their money, and now coming up with a solution to try and limit our screen time, to try and maybe fix some addictions you might have, or just give you some time back where you can speak to humans rather than speak to your phone. And they've created a concept where it's basically an envelope, so a paper envelope. So they've got a specific paper envelope. You put your phone in this envelope, it can still operate for the basics. You can still make a phone call, receive a phone call, just do a couple of basic things, take some photos, but you can't use the smart features of it. So you're not going to be able to get on there and check your social media, check your email, look online, all those things that you do that just consume so much of your time on a phone. So this is their solution. There's a range of ideas that are coming up, or the people are coming up with, to try and work out ways to limit our screen time a little bit. So this is Google's latest solution. The envelope, you put it in, it's a once-only envelope, you use it in there, you take it out at the end when you really just can't help yourself any longer, and you have to get in and start using your phone again as normal, and you pull it out of the envelope and away you go again.
Right, yeah, so it's just a buffer. It's just it's making you think that little bit harder about it. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. And you've still got it there just for those simple things, although I know with my kids, making phone calls, I'm not sure if they know how to make a phone call on their phone, because for them communication is via social media, via text, or just it's all with a written command rather than actually speaking to someone. So if you said, here you go, put it in this envelope, you can just make phone calls, they say, what's a phone call? So it's got to be used in the right way, I suppose, is the main thing.
Yeah, some people are shocked when you call them up.
What is this thing? How can I talk to you?
And well, straight onto the phone thing, I guess. 5G is something that's talked about a lot. I know that you're heavily involved with the promotion of it. And the next iPhone is expected to come with the 5G technology as well.
It is an interesting battleground now with 5G. When the latest iPhone came out last year in September, it came out and it wasn't 5G enabled. The Samsung phones that came out last year, some of those were 5G enabled. So this seemed like a big jump from Samsung to get ahead of Apple, the continual battle between those two giants. And Apple said there's not enough carriers around the world to worry about 5G. And the general talk around the experts was that even this year in September, when the latest iPhones come out, there was talk that they may not ever be 5G enabled because, again, Apple's logic was there's not enough carriers around the world that are supporting 5G. Well, that started to ramp up. And so now the latest rumours are that the iPhones that come out this year will be 5G. There's new Samsungs that will be out next week, so they are expected to all be 5G given the fact that some of their models were 5G last year. There's even a new brand on the market, TCL, which you may have seen in TVs. TCL are now coming out with some phones, they're 5G enabled. So it will be unusual for any reasonable sort of spec phone, smartphone to come out now from here going forward that isn't 5G enabled. There might be some budget ones that come out not 5G enabled. So that all puts a lot of pressure on Apple, and if they don't come out with 5G enabled phones this year, then I think they'll be seen as really dragging the chain, so they'll have to come out with 5G enabled. So by the end of this year, I think all the major phones that are in the market, all the latest current models that are in the market will all be 5G enabled.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I've spoken about Apple quite a lot, how they're such a legacy brand, but they do feel to be struggling. I really think that we've seen the effects of after Steve Jobs' time there, and especially when we talk about audio before, I used to just be diehard for Apple products in the studio, but I've really had to move away from them because they just weren't providing options for professionals. Yeah. And I think hesitating to go and push to have the best quality product is a real worry, and I'm glad that they're on board now.
I actually see there's a little bit of complacency. I know when I first started in mobile phones 30 years ago, I was selling mobile phones. Motorola was the brand to have. If you wanted to buy a phone, then you looked at Motorola, and you might consider something else, but Motorola was the brand. And then they became a bit complacent, and they had a few issues where their phones weren't leading the way, and suddenly this brand Nokia came along and knocked them off their perch, and suddenly Nokia was the phone to have. And again, they became complacent. They missed the whole smartphone thing. Apple came along, and now it's almost at a tipping point. If Apple don't kind of wake themselves up out of their complacency, in my opinion, Samsung, who are already the largest smartphone seller in the world just by virtue of the number of models they've got and the number of phones they sell, in the premium, so when you compare the latest Galaxy versus the latest iPhone, Apple still sell more, but Samsung is selling more phones overall. But I think Apple's at risk of losing that top level sales perch if they just don't wake up themselves from a complacency perspective. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and just keep it going. Something that stuck out to me is Dr. Karl's coming to your shop soon. I saw that last week, and it made me excited. I used to listen to Dr. Karl a lot.
Yep.
And it's something about him and the way he speaks and his sense of humour, but then he just starts nailing you with all these facts.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what's happening with that?
Well, when we just celebrated 30 years, 4th of December last year was 30 years in business, so that's pretty exciting for a business. And I thought we need to do some sort of celebration. Doing it around Christmas is not a great time to do it. And so I started thinking about who would be the perfect person to have as someone as a special guest. And a bit the same as you, I love Dr. Karl's ability to take some really complicated concepts, break them down to make them simple for the average person to understand, which is fantastic. But he does know what he's talking about as well. So he's not just glib and just flips over information. He does know the information behind the scenes, but makes it very simple. So when I started to think about who would be the perfect person to come along and help celebrate the 30th anniversary of a technology business, and really it's a celebration of 6 businesses that I've started over the years, but they've all been that technology focus. I thought Dr. Karl was the perfect person, so I spoke to him. He was happy to come out. We're giving away 50 copies of his new book, the Dr. Karl's Random Road Trip Through Science. So that'll be great for the first 50 people that turn up. But we've got a whole range of things. Meeting Dr. Karl will be a highlight for a lot of people. We've got Puka there with entertainment. We've got $20,000 worth of prizes we're giving away during the day. We're giving away an iPad Pro, a whole bunch of other little prizes. So it'll be a pretty exciting day overall, but just a celebration of technology and a celebration of us being in business for that long.
Wow, and when's that one?
On the 15th of February, Saturday the 15th of February. All day we'll be celebrating there. Dr. Karl will be there between 10 and 2 p.m.
Awesome. Matthew, thank you for Tech Talk. It's wonderful to talk to you. I'll be here next week as well. We'll do it again.
Excellent, Clinton.
All right, thank you. You're on DCFM 88.9.